I'm Theo.
And I'm Juliette.
And this is Apologies Accepted.
We offer an entertaining look at some of the big issues in history by examining public apologies of the famous and infamous.
We're looking at politicians, serial killers, actors, and you.
Send us a public apology you would like to make, and we'll read it on the air and give you a chance to redeem yourself or just get some guilt off your shoulders.
We're here for you. Once a week, maybe more if you're really, really sorry.
This is Apologies Accepted.
The podcast.
And I'm not Theo. This last 5 minutes of Thanksgiving, last 5 minutes of 2024.
Are you sure you're not Theo? Because you sound as confused as he does. I'm not Juliette.
I'm surprised I got the year right. It's a miracle.
You've had 12 months to practice it. So,
and just when I get used to it, it's time for another one. So, yeah. What's shaking, bacon?
Christmas, which now is over, sadly, but there's 362? No. 300. Don't do math, Theo. There's over 300 and some odd days before next Christmas, 2025.
Preparing.
Yes, well, I still wasn't ready, and Christmas was 3 days ago now? 4 days ago now?
Like that.
Math. Yeah, so we're in the desert, the family's here, and we had a lovely time. It is crisp and cool outside. The tree looks great. Real excited to have experienced the house in positive use as opposed to my previous experience, which was all fixing stuff that was breaking. So it's a whole different... It's weird to be in a house that you like. It's weird.
You're in a house that you like at your other house.
I'm in a house that I like the other house, but I don't think of that. So I don't think of that at all, right? Because everything always worked there. Yeah. This pile of bricks. But anyway, yeah. So beautiful time, and we're gearing up for New Year's, which is gonna be. We'll probably do like 2 little quick celebrations. Most of the family's from the UK, and so for them, New Year will really be at 4 p.m. in Los Angeles time because that's midnight in the UK. So we'll have early celebration, early bed, and then everybody's leaving the next day. So it's a 2-hour drive to LAX. In theory, that 2 hours can become any number of hours, depending upon car accidents or whatever, random road repair, right? We picked them up at LAX. And it took us 2 hours to get out there. It took us 5 hours to get home.
Holy shit, really?
And they
Jesus
were
Christ.
Off of an 11-hour flight. So
oh, my God.
You can imagine how delighted they were to be in the back seat of my car.
Well, I bet they were glad just to get off
hours.
the fucking plane, but still.
There was that, but, on the plane, you can get up and walk down the aisle. You can go to the bathroom, right? Not better. But it is slightly better. So, yeah, we were just stuck in traffic, and there wasn't a single reason for all that traffic outside of too many people live here.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so, yikes. And the long drive, James drove for a bit, prompted me to do some Googling because I was like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I? And the rabbit hole I fell down was that California lost a lot of residents from 2020 through like 2022, 2023. And it was all, the price of eggs are too high here. We have to move to a state where eggs are cheaper. And then people moved to a state where eggs are cheaper and discovered they didn't like living in those states. So a lot of Californians are now returning, and the population level is getting back to pre-pandemic levels, right?
I see.
So, yeah. And I'm like, I could have told you bitches that. You should have all just called me.
Yeah, really.
We're thinking of moving to Florida. Eggs are so cheap there. Not just the eggs, people. Don't do it. But yeah, that's what's shaking bacon. It's just still holiday stuff. And we're in this mid zone of like, it's 2024 and we're all together and it's nice and cozy. And then 2025 is around the corner, and that's when all the hysteria hits.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah. Don't even want to think about
it. To it.
Not at all. Fuck it.
No.
What about you? What's shaking bacon? How are your holidays?
I had a lovely Christmas with my husband, my lovely husband, and we had a good time just chilling out, exchanging gifts by the fire. It sounds so nice. And it was nice. And our anniversary was a couple days before that, and I got a beautiful ring for my anniversary from Brent. So thank you, Brent. I love it. Wearing it all the time. I think I'll never take it off. I'll never take it off.
Oh,
And that's really it. I can't think of anything else interesting to tell you about.
well, lie.
Well, lie.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I'm on Accutane now, which is dramatic because it's for rosacea. And so I'm on a low dose, and instantly, like the minute I took it, I got 1,000 pimples.
Oh.
And it is so terrible. It's like I am embarrassed to open the door to let people in, not to let people in, but to get the mail. So that's how bad it is. And hopefully, they say that this period lasts like 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months?
That's what I said. I'm hoping not, but some of these pimples are clearing up, and I'm hoping new ones don't come and take their place. But this is, I'm supposed to go to visit a client in San Carlos at the end of the month, January, and not looking forward to it if that's the way my skin is going to look, because it's going to be just, I mean, it's worse than when I was a teenager. It's worse than any time in my life. And I can understand that it's going to clear everything, and everything's going to be great, and I'm going to have fabulous skin, and I'm going to be grateful. But for now, I am not grateful. So that's my
No.
spirit story. I'm not grateful for this miracle of modern medicine.
I am plagued by acne my whole entire life, right?
Are you?
Oh God, I fucking hate it. And so whatever, I'll get a pimple every now and then and fine. And then I went to a dermatologist because they started coming up more, right? Instead of being 1, it'd be like 5. And then it got, let's talk about acne.
Nuts.
And then it got like cyclical. They would move across my face.
Oh, wow.
In the same pattern. So it would like start off on my forehead, and then it'd move to the right side of my face, and then it'd be down around my chin, and then it'd move over to the left side of my face and close to my ears and all this nonsense.
Wow.
And that went on for like, I don't know, I'm going to call it 2 years.
Yeah.
Enough that I could clock it. And I'd be like, all right, now you're down the chin. Okay, well, I know what's going to happen next. And it would. So I went to the dermatologist, and she prescribed a very minor antibiotic, which did the trick. But we talked about Accutane, and she was like, yeah, you'll be on it for about 3 months, and it'll dry you out, and it'll prevent acne outbreaks from ever happening again. And I was like, well, let's do this miracle drug. And she was like, your insurance is not going to cover it. And it's going to be like, I think it was $300 a month.
Oh,
and
wow.
At that time, I was like, oh, no, I'm not spending that kind of money. I'd rather have a pimple. That's fine.
Oh, wow. Well, you can see if it works for me and decide if you decide. I don't think that you have the pimples anymore, but if you do and you want to use me as a guinea pig, you can feel free.
Okay, fantastic. That's what I'm going to do. I'll talk to you in 4 months.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, my God. But yeah, insurance is covering it. But I had to sign my life away that I wasn't going to get pregnant. And I'm like, I'm a little bit old for that. And she's like, you still have to use 2 forms of birth control. And I'm like, holy shit. And I had to sign all these papers saying that, that I wouldn't get pregnant and that I wasn't,
oh my
whatever.
Gosh. What happens if you get pregnant?
Oh, they're birth defects.
Okay.
Caused by the drug. So that's why they don't want anyone to get pregnant that's taking it. So it's serious. And on the medication, it says, do not get pregnant in like red letters, like 1,000 times with a picture of a pregnant woman with a line drawn through it and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's true.
No.
It's true. It's absolutely
true.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be getting pregnant. Like, I mean, I couldn't even if I wanted to. So that's good. But I'll let you know how it goes for sure. You'll hear of nothing else until the whole shit clears up.
Oh my God. I had no idea about that.
Yeah. I don't know what they make men do, like swear that they're going to use condoms. I don't know. Maybe they don't care what men do. So it's the women's problem.
It would, that is interesting. It could impact sperm production, and it could do something to mutate a sperm, but most likely not. And I'll bet you it doesn't matter. Using my 1 semester of physiology to like walk through. What could happen to the fetus?
Who knows?
My God, who knew?
Who knew? So that's very interesting. But yeah, let's talk about North Carolina, which is a state where we both lived and town where we both lived, Durham, North Carolina. Although neither of us lived there at the time of the story, which is 2006. So I had been living in San Francisco for 11 years at this point, and you had been out of state for many years. I don't know, how many years had you been out of state in 2006?
I'm trying to remember the exact year that I got to California. It was 86 or 87.
So 30 years? No.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Math.
20 years.
There's no way to
years.
know. Couldn't. But that's also impossible because I'm really only 17 still, right? So how could we say it's been 20 years? It's longer than I've been alive, Juliette. How dare you?
You just left, in fact. So, and at the same time, you had been away from Duke for a while, but we know what Duke lacrosse players are like, or at least
God, yes.
Yeah, and I lived up until I moved away. I lived just around the corner from the house where this story took place. So I'm very familiar with Duke students and Duke athletes and how they're treated and how they're overly respected. What's the word? Overly
worshipped. Yeah,
at Duke. So they're not among the nicest of people, but that doesn't mean that they deserve to be accused of rape unless they did it, which is a whole other story. So anyway, in 2006, Crystal Mangum alleged that 3 Duke lacrosse players raped her at a team house party on Buchanan Boulevard, where they paid to have 2 strippers, including Mangum, in attendance. So that tells you something right there, that there's a party and they pay to have strippers. I mean, does that happen a lot at universities? I don't know. I didn't hear of it happening at UNC, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen, because it probably did. But strippers seems a little bit excessive to me.
It's going to be like having never belonged to a fraternity. Right?
Yeah.
But I have friends that were in fraternities.
Yeah.
Right? Not great friends, just people that I know. And so I'm going to say it's not terribly common, right?
Okay.
But, and I forget the actual circumstances. I don't remember if they had won some game but it seemed that this evening was a party that was kind of a traditional party, right? Or an annual event, right? The special event that the guys are having. And so it's not that it was Saturday and everybody was bored. They called strippers because this was the special party of the house.
And that's how you celebrate a special party with strippers.
Well.
So the one sex worker, Crystal Mangum, showed up, and the other sex worker showed up as well, and their stories sort of contradict each other. The other sex worker, Kim Merritt Roberts, said that she was with Crystal Mangum the entire evening, except for a period of less than 5 minutes. After hearing Mangum say that she was sexually assaulted, Roberts called those claims a crock. So you've got disagreement there between the 2 sex workers or strippers, or however you prefer to call them. The Duke lacrosse players, as I alluded to earlier, although they may have been falsely accused, they may not have been nice people. By other reports, including reports of some of the other lacrosse players, they appear to have threatened the woman with a broomstick, causing them to hide in a bathroom twice, and repeatedly used the N-word toward them. But they do not appear to have raped anyone. I will say that. So the allegations, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really bad people, bad behavior, bad situation, bad story from everybody involved in this story. I'll say, with the exception of the one dancer named Kim, who, she just had a real bad day. It's what happened to poor. Yeah. So my understanding of it is that Kim and Crystal had never met, but they both worked for the same company, and the company was a dance. They provided strippers / escorts, right? And the guys had called and asked for 2 white dancers. Very specifically, they wanted white dancers. And instead, they got 2 black dancers.
All right.
They wanted the dancers there at 11 p.m., and Kim got there just a few minutes after 11, and then Crystal didn't get there until like 40 minutes later. And when she arrived, she was already drunk and verging on incoherent,
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, my heart. Let's go on because there's just a lot with this story.
There's a whole lot with this story, and I didn't go into all of it because it's so complicated. And she apparently had been previous to going to this party, she had been performing at a hotel for somebody in a couple in a private room, which impacted the evidence in her case. But anyway, the allegations triggered a widespread national response from the media. The investigation and resolution of the case sparked public discussion of racism, sexual violence, media bias, and due process on campuses. Much of the discussion was in support of Crystal Mangum, with protests occurring on the Duke campus and elsewhere. A public letter was published by 88 faculty members and staff in support of Crystal Mangum, and the new Black Panthers showed up with knives threatening to investigate. So surprisingly, at least it was surprising to me at the time, people came out in support of Crystal Mangum. And normally that's not what you see in colleges and universities and North Carolina and really anywhere.
Sure. Or situations like this where you have a Black woman and 3 very rich
white people.
White guys. And they weren't just rich. They were very, very rich guys, right? To hire the dancers, it was $800 for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for
it was even
2 hours.
At the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I can't even imagine how much that was then. Like $1 million.
$1 million. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I was totally surprised at the time. And I remember my mother calling me up and telling me about the story. I'd already heard about it, but whatever. And telling me about the story and saying that she thought that the Duke students were innocent. And I thought that was ridiculous. And, that surely the Duke students were being Duke students and had done this thing. But apparently even I was wrong for once in my life.
Well, not wrong, just
less right.
Less right than evidence later would support your decision to be writer. I don't know. Me too.
Absolutely.
At the time, there was no question in my mind that these guys were guilty.
Yeah.
That everything that she said happened, because it tracked with my understanding of rich white fraternity guys.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Although, admittedly, these guys were not in a fraternity house. This was the house that they all lived in and shared, right? And I think it was even off campus.
It was right across the street.
However, saying all that, close enough to campus, in the neighborhood, and they were all university students, right? And all on the same team, and all quite used to hero worship.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But we both weren't less right than we could have been on this story. And lead prosecutor Mike Nifong got into trouble for his prosecution of the case. He ultimately resigned in disgrace and was disbarred and briefly imprisoned for violating ethics standards. So that was an unusual part of the story too. He actually, when he resigned in disgrace, he turned it over to the state, I guess, to prosecute the case. And the state took a totally different approach and did end up finding these guys, I guess, not guilty. In 2024, Crystal Mangum, just a few weeks ago, admitted to having actually made up the allegations. So the 3 students then brought a civil lawsuit against Duke University, or actually, I guess at the time, they brought a civil lawsuit against Duke University, which was settled with the university allegedly paying $20 million to each claimant. The students also sought further unspecified damages and called for criminal justice reform laws in a federal civil rights lawsuit filed against the city of Durham and its police department. In November 2013, Crystal Mangum was found guilty of second-degree murder after she stabbed her boyfriend, Reginald Day, who died 10 days later. She argued that she acted in self-defense, fearing that Day would kill her, and she was sentenced to 14 to 18 years in prison. So I guess it was not, the jury did not find it believable that she was acting in self-defense. And I wonder if they allowed the Duke Lacrosse thing as evidence in the case. Just wondering.
Oh, I don't know. I do know in that situation with her boyfriend who she stabbed, that he survived for 10 days. And so they took statements off of him, and it was probably the strength of his statements and factual evidence, right?
I see.
And then, and I hate to say this, but Crystal's a bad liar.
Oh.
Like,
yeah.
like a just bad liar.
She wasn't able to pick people out of the lineup that were in the house at the time of the alleged rape. So like she picked the wrong people out of the lineup and people that weren't there. And well, of course she had been there. And so she should have been able to identify people, but she had been under the influence of something. So she may not have even really recognized anyone at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Just, it's an unbelievable case, but it's unbelievable in that it really highlights what words am I looking for? How the legal system works and how the wheels of justice are sometimes completely pushed and evidence is manufactured, right, in order to get a conviction. And
right.
The reason Nifong lost his job and was disbarred is, holy God, he had the worst witness on the planet who lied at the drop of a hat. Now, I get that she was under the influence of drugs and dealing with addiction, et cetera, and so and had a very tough life. So I get all that, right? And I have a certain measure of sympathy for people who are in those situations and in those circumstances, and they tend to be nothing but bad news to other people around them. And that's what happened to these three white guys. Crystal showed up and she's kind of nothing but bad news. Drama magnet is a word that sometimes people will use. And lied her way through the entire process. However, because people were willing to believe her, in spite of evidence to the contrary, like her story changed 3 times within the course of an hour.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, anyway, we could go through, or I could go through and pick off all of the reasons. I could point to all of the red flags that would have told any attorney with any amount of credibility, right? Or ethics, let's use that word, like, okay, we should not be prosecuting this case. These guys may not have done what she is saying, right? Now, the guys were not well behaved, right? No. They did definitely use abusive language. They were racist, said really shitty things. One of the guys said, so the guys were disappointed in the dance, right? Uh-huh. The dance lasted about 5 minutes, wasn't very good. Crystal and Kim were not into it, and the guys started saying things like, "Hey, if we pay you more money, could we fuck you with a broomstick?" Right?
Yeah.
And then things took a turn, and Kim said something to one of the guys about, "I wouldn't let you fuck me with your little white dick." Mm-hmm. Right? Words to that effect. And then the guys were like using the N-word, and one of them said, and this is a direct quote, "Hey, thank your granddad for my cotton shirt." Right? Terrible, awful. And the girls at a certain point went to the bathroom together,
right,
to get away from the guys. And when they came out of the bathroom, the guys were calling the escort service to complain. They wanted a refund. They wanted, different set of dancers to come, and things just were so ugly.
Yeah.
And all of this was known, and it was known because this was 2006 and people had camera phones and they had text messages and there were phone calls. It's a very well documented timeline in which having, this is going to sound terrible, right? But like there was not time to have a rape situation, in short. So I am not surprised that Mike Nifong was disbarred and sent to jail. He even withheld DNA evidence that showed that the guys were innocent.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously was biased against Duke from the beginning. And there are indeed those of us who hate Duke University and everybody associated with
Oh,
it.
sure.
And would celebrate, not a case like this, but would celebrate some of them going to prison for things that they've done. But still, he did resign in disgrace, so he was disbarred. He got what he deserved for his ethics violations. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, and we'll say, in my head, the piece that I'm making up is that Crystal's finally getting the help that she needed.
Hopefully.
All of those years ago. I do know that she has 2 children, or had 2 children at the time when she was dancing, and that part of her fear was that CPS, Child Protective Services, would be taking her children away from her, and that coming up with a story where she is the victim puts the focus on other people's actions and not the fact that she's addicted to drugs and appearing for work drunk and has a problem with alcohol, and putting a focus on what kind of a mother are you? Maybe your children would be better off with in a different household, right?
Right.
So it is understandable on some level why she would be tempted to lie, again, to put the focus not on her, but on other people. But yeah, just terribly unfortunate all the way around. And I'll say the most unfortunate thing is that now I have a reason to feel sorry for Duke Lacrosse players. Because I did think they were guilty. Like, again, no question in my mind.
No, absolutely. Well, they got $20 million, so I guess they're okay.
They're okay. Yeah. And they probably started off with $20 million anyway.
Yeah, they probably didn't need $20 million. So there is an apology. Crystal Mangum made her confession and apologized in an interview published on the 11th of December on Let's Talk with Kat, which I believe is a podcast hosted by Caterina De Pasquale at the North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women, where she's currently in prison after being convicted of second-degree murder. And the apology says, "It's been on my heart to do a public apology concerning the Duke Lacrosse case. I actually lied about the incident to the public, my family, my friends, and to God about it, and I'm not proud about it. I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong, and I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me. I made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. I was looking for love and acceptance from people to love me, to accept me, to pay attention to me for validation. But you can get all of that in Jesus. He loves us just the way we are. That's what I learned in prison." On the podcast, she said she hopes the 3 men will forgive her. "I want them to know that I love them and they didn't deserve that, and I hope that they can forgive me," she said. "I hope that they can heal and trust God and know that God loves them and that God is loving them through me, letting them know that they're valuable." Mangum referred to the 3 accused lacrosse players as her brothers, saying they didn't deserve the accusations. So I don't know.
Same.
Yeah.
It's a good apology, except then we start pulling in all this God stuff. And then, we kind of exonerate ourselves by saying, I'm the tool that helped God love you more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like she found God in prison, and there's perhaps an ulterior motive for that. Maybe she wants to get out early. Maybe she wants to be treated better. Maybe she's hoping for something from that. Maybe she has honestly found Jesus. I don't know. But I mean, God, people believe anything.
People do believe anything.
It doesn't make me feel better about her to think that she found Jesus.
Yeah.
In any way.
If anything, it's expected.
It's expected, and plenty of people who believe in Jesus do horrible things. So, yeah. There you go. Let's look at our criteria for this apology. Okay. Was there an expression of regret? Not really. Was there an explanation of what went wrong? Yes-ish. She said she was looking for validation from people, not from God. All right. Was there an acknowledgement of responsibility? Kind of. She said she did testify falsely, so she did admit that she did it. So, okay, we'll give her that. Was there a declaration of repentance? Not really. Was there an offer of repair? No, she didn't say that she was going to work to prevent false accusations in the future or do anything in her personal life other than praise God.
Yeah.
And was there a request for forgiveness? Yes, there was. She did say that she hoped that they would forgive her. So I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 10 just because there's too much God in it.
I'm giving it a 3 out of 10, 1 point higher than you because God's in it, and I want him to judge me nicely when the time comes. And remember that I gave him 1 extra point.
The extra point will be what throws you over the fence into heaven.
It throws me over the fence into heaven. Better be how that sentence was going to end. Yeah, of course I don't believe this apology. I mean, I believe that I think it was very good that she admitted that she lied. That's not an easy thing to do when you completely manufacture a story to get attention and sympathy and protect yourself and all that bullshit, all the reasons why we manufacture stories. It's not hard to admit that. Let me rephrase that. It is very hard to admit that you've just completely lied.
Yeah.
Not even exaggerated a little bit. So props for that. I'm sure these guys have had a shadow cast over them, even though they were found innocent at the time. Mike Nifong, to this day, today, will tell you that they are guilty.
Really?
Yep. And that the reason he slanted the evidence towards their conviction was he knew they were guilty. Even though that lying DNA.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah.
All right.
Did I say more than yeah?
Yeah. We give it a 2.5 out of 10 on average, which is almost 1/5. So, whatever that means. And yeah, I don't have a Who's Sorry Now or Apology Expected this week. I looked and looked for one, and I kept coming across the story that we're going to be actually doing next week. So I wasn't able to find any. I don't know if you were or not.
I won't either. I will say that there's some interesting stuff brewing in Trump world. But then at the same time, I do have a Who's Sorry Now. My Who's Sorry Now is the media, right? And apology expected at some future point from everybody involved in media for just constantly fucking making shit bigger than it is, or not reporting on the stuff that is important because we're so focused on, Donald Trump's tan lines, right? And not the bullshit that he's doing. So there's a thing happening in MAGA world where it is a lot of people who voted for Trump are white supremacists. And there's this kind of, what word am I looking for? There's this America First sensibility that runs through the MAGA party, right? And so Elon Musk over Christmas put out a tweet that said, we need more H-1B visas in the United States. And for our international listeners, an H-1B visa allows you to come to the U.S. and work. And you get it because your skills are needed by an American company. And that's great. And I think the visa is good for 10 years. So now Elon Musk entered the U.S. on an H-1B visa.
He didn't actually.
Oh, no?
I read that he came in as a student on a student visa, and he never actually had an H-1B.
Oh.
I know he said that he did, but I understand that he just overstayed his student visa. But anyway.
Okay, well, then he should not have been working because that's very clear in visa world what you are allowed and not allowed to do. So whatever, Elon Musk owns a tech company. He's all for the H-1B visa because he needs these workers to come in. H-1B visa holders will sometimes work for a little less money than an American because it's great experience working in the U.S. and the H-1 can sometimes be a pathway to green cards. Not always, but sometimes. So anyway, his pal, and I can never get this guy's name right, Vivek. Yeah, another tech billionaire. He's the guy that's going to, let's call it co-host. He's going to co-host the DOGE Department of Government Evaluation or some such bullshit like that.
Efficiency?
That's it, yeah. So the other guy who is Indian, / he's born in the U.S., but of Indian descent, and his parents are immigrants to the U.S., right? So Elon Musk puts out this thing about, we need H-1B visa holders, and MAGA world loses its mind online because it's supposed to be Americans to get these jobs. Why are we bringing in foreigners for them? This is stupid. This is terrible. So this Vivek guy, whose name I'm mispronouncing, and I also don't care, put out a tweet that was like, yeah, Elon, America has celebrated the culture of mediocrity for too long now. People are too interested in watching TV and not interested in studying science or math. We need to have science weekend fairs and math camp, and we need to have the best engineers possible, right? And, in a weird way, parts of that I might agree with, right? It would be nice if science was more celebrated and more available. Anyway, turns out white people don't like being called mediocre. Isn't that funny? And so they're having a fit. And so the media is presenting this story now. And while I'm not actively reading these articles, they are coming through my feed in Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing the headlines. And it seems like any minute the MAGA party is just going to disappear in a fit of anger. And that's not what's going to happen. And I want the media to stop it. And so they owe me an apology.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I do hope that Elon Musk gets some blowback because I hate him. But whether it will actually happen or not, probably not.
Probably not. And he's probably going to join the Duke Lacrosse team. And
he probably was on the Duke Lacrosse team.
He definitely would have been on the Duke Lacrosse team.
I wonder where he went to school. Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
All right. Well, I think that's it for us this week.
That is it for us.
We'll be back next week with another riveting story. And until then, stay cool, cucumbers.
And don't trip potato chip.
And
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Apologies Accepted, the podcast.
You can find links to the articles and the sources in the show notes.
To submit an apology or find out more, visit us at apologiesaccepted.net, where you can also find our merchandise.
We're on Twitter at Apologies Accepted.
And on Instagram at apologies.accepted.
You can support our important work at Patreon.com/Apologies Accepted.
And fuck Facebook.
Bye.